Welcome to the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. My name is Dr. Jinong, and I'm your host. I'm a cathartic release therapist, professionally trained as an osteopath, psychosomatic therapist, Western acupuncturist, and herbalist. I'm fascinated by the mind-body connection and how your physical body is a manifestation of your emotional state. I help people get unstuck from their chronic pain, whether it be physical or emotional, and live the life they truly desire, grounded in values and driven by purpose. My aim is to create awareness to the underlying emotions behind pain, injury, and disease in the body, as well as behavioural dysfunctions and mental imbalances that present. I do this using a unique blend of Eastern and Western philosophies and a good dose of intuition. Join me to learn more about the story of your body, what different issues may indicate, how to release emotions so that you can prevent problems, as well as inspiring pain story interviews. Okay, this is a first official question that someone has asked me in response to me wanting to change up my podcast. Have you speak out, introduce yourself, let me know what your question is, back it up with some real life examples so that I can give you a more personalized response. So let me play the message to you, and that allows me to feel like I'm more in the moment and responding in my best way possible.
Hi, Jen. This is Melanie, and I have a question on manifestation for you. So, every time I try to manifest something, I get this intense feeling that I'm being really greedy or taking away something from someone else. I can't get past it, and it's a real block for me. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on it. Yeah, it's really hard to explain. The only way I can say it is at the moment I'm a single mum trying to leave an emotionally abusive situation. I find I keep self-sabotaging and looking for work opportunities, and at the last minute they all seem to fall through, even though they look promising at the time. I've sat on it and reflected it, and the only things that I keep coming back to are someone must need it more than me. Therefore, it would be, insert whatever word, greedy or wrong or unethical for me to accept the job. And then next thing you know, the job has fallen through and the cycle is repeating. Um, it's it's really weird, but it's really frustrating at the same time. Yeah, I also think it's also worth noting that I am an extremely sensitive empath. So I do feel a lot and I feel deeply. And yeah, I think that plays into it a lot as well.
Okay, Melanie, thank you so much for your question. And I loved the music. I don't know if you heard it on me playing it back. I said, oh, I like your background music in those second and third messages there. And she was putting some music on for her cat and her kitten to help them relax. So it's really sweet. I love that you love your animals that much. Okay, so I feel like I'm actually going to start working backwards from being a sensitive empath and then talking about your current situation that you described. And then I'm going to go into talking about this manifestation question and this cycle that keeps on repeating itself. But first of all, it's great when you can actually acknowledge when history keeps on repeating itself. You can see the pattern. And now it's how do I break it is most likely your question. Okay, so the sensitive empath, this is one of my favorite things that people will share. Not that you've asked me to respond to this, but I do feel it's necessary to respond to. So I think I might have a podcast on this. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's one of the fears that I wrote about. There were 5 fears that people have when they come onto the release course. So you can go and listen to that one. That was recorded in a certain energy. And yes, it's got the title empath. So just look for it on my podcast platform. But I'm going to speak to it a little bit here so it's relevant in the answer for your question. So I think it's great that we have sensitive empaths, and I think it's a really amazing trait to be a sensitive empath. But I feel like some people can sometimes unintentionally blame the fact that they're a sensitive empath as to why they are not attracting what it is they desire into their life, or why they are being held back. And I want to offer a different lens on this. So I used to talk about this a lot in my practitioner training, because when I did my practitioner training, teaching practitioners how to facilitate the release process with their clients, is I said, you have got to do so much work on yourself to be able to hold the space. And one of their biggest fears, or it would come up every round, is how am I going to do this work when I am a sensitive empath? Now, I believe I am a sensitive empath. I feel everything to the point where people actually call me unemotional. And I believe it's because I can process it. I see it, I feel it, I hear it, and I process it pretty much in the moment. I understand it, I see it, I feel it, I hear it, and I'm done with it. Okay. And I'm very good at deciphering, is this me or is it them? Sometimes I have to spend a little bit more time on this, because being an empath, I believe, is being able to feel, see, and hear what is going on for someone, not to be sympathetic to them, but basically you are able to read their energy, you are able to pick up on their energy. But the work of a sensitive empath, or for anyone, even if you don't identify as a sensitive empath, is to do your own emotional work and know what you're responsible for. You are only responsible for your own emotions, and maybe partly, if you have a young child, a little bit for them until a certain point. Okay, so what is it that you are responsible for? And this is going to help you with manifestation, to know that you are only responsible for yourself, that your external circumstances do not matter, and you don't need to wait for something else to change before you go and make the move. You don't need that block to be gone necessarily. Okay, so you work on yourself, and I'm going to share with you a little bit about how you can work on your potentially your own emotional blocks that are blocking you from moving forwards. So for anyone who's listening to this, and thank you, Melanie, for bringing it up here, I have spoken about it before. It's one of the fears. If you just type in fear, or you type in empath in the podcast platform, it should come up on my podcast or on my webpage. Okay, so listen to that. When you're a sensitive empath, it's a really amazing quality, but you've got to learn to set that boundary and understand what are you responsible for, and that you're not responsible for anyone else's energy or emotions. And you also get to make a choice that if you feel that right now you're impacted by this, that you remove yourself from that situation. Okay, so that's working backwards. I'm a sensitive empath and I feel a lot deeply. And I think you said that potentially you feel like this might be impacting why this is going on. Okay, so then I asked you for an example so I could speak a little bit more to that. Now, some of this I'm going to be speaking to people generally and what I've experienced, and some of it may relate to you. So you're a single mum and you are currently trying to leave a emotionally abusive situation. And you're trying to look for work, and you feel like there's some self-sabotage, and you feel like it's all looking good on paper, it's all go, and then you have this thought come up, someone else might need it, someone else needs it more, and it feels greedy or wrong. Okay, so I've kind of brought in 2 parts. But being a single mum and trying to leave an emotionally abusive situation right now. So sometimes we have got situations where our energy has got to go to, and in amongst this, I would say continue to look after yourself, continue to be responsible, continue to ask yourself, what is it that I can do, and how is it that I can be to help this process move through in the way that I desire? You know, what is your desired outcome to leave this emotionally abusive relationship? And my work is really rooted in empty out your emotional cup, process your emotions that haven't been allowed to, be processed or expressed, maybe in this relationship, but maybe also something prior to this relationship. Because what is this relationship that I've been in here to share with me? And yesterday, while I was just in a quiet moment and I have what I feel are pretty profound messages download, is that when you're in this lack energy, you will tend to, someone pulled me up on this and there was a typo and I missed the word tend. When you are in the lack energy, you will tend to blame others for the situation that you're in. Now, I'm not saying this is specific to you, Melanie, but when you shift into the abundance and everything is just working out and you're manifesting your desires, you will be grateful for the part that that person played. So someone sent me a message and they said something along the lines of, well, I do know people who are in the lack, but still hold the trust that things will work out. So the word that was missing was tends to, not everyone. Absolutely, I agree with that. And I can't be very nuanced and speak to every angle on social media. So it sounds like you're making the moves to get yourself out of this situation. And I want you to look after yourself as much as possible. Try and find your moments of joy in amongst dealing with what could be potentially a difficult situation, and hold on to and really know what your desired end result is in relation to this. And just know that you'll probably have emotions that you need to process around the relationship that you have been, past relationships, and any other interactions with people as to why is history repeating itself in this way. So you've talked about the cycle repeating itself with, say, for example, going for a job and then it's all good on paper and then it falls through and you have these thoughts. The cycle repeats itself, is look at where else history might be repeating itself. And it's great to have the awareness of the patterns and where history is repeating itself. And then sometimes it's time to make the move. So I feel like if you can process the emotions, and I have my own way that I teach people to do it, there are many various ways. Any way you choose, I just want you to feel the impact of it, feel like you are moving forwards. Because I do believe when emotions get stored in our body, they can prevent us, block us, create these invisible gates and shields that stop us moving forwards in the direction that we desire. So I always start with process your emotions. And I meet a lot of people that say, I'm doing the work, I've done the work. And then they do my work and they say, oh, I've never done it in this way. And oh my gosh, I had no idea I was still holding on to so much emotion around this event. So I love to recommend my own work. It's the release process that I have come up with. But process your emotions, empty out your emotional cup, and start to create space for more. So you're in this pocket of time where there is something for you to deal with, and you're probably putting a lot of energy into that. Wherever possible, try and give energy back to yourself and fill up your own cup in whatever way that might be. It is interesting that sometimes when I ask people what brings you joy, what makes you feel good, that sometimes it's completely lost on you because it's been such a long time. So there's that situation on the emotional level to work with, and past stuff that might feed into why have you found yourself in this situation in an emotionally abusive relationship. And I hope that you are able to move through this part of your life as quickly and easily and as graceful as possible. So I don't know if this is a new relationship that you're in as a single mother. And people can become single solo parents for a number of reasons. It can be a death of a loved one. It can be that it was cheating or an affair. It could be that, hey, it just didn't quite work out and we honor one another's pathways and we're just not meant to be together. And I do work with a lot of people who go through separation. Sometimes people work with me thinking they want to separate or divorce, but actually they have a deeper connection and a new relationship within that existing relationship. So I always am open to the possibilities of either end of the spectrum being the outcome, but helping people work on a really grounded decision and just being really aware of, why am I in this situation? Why has this soul, this person, crossed my path? What are they here to teach me? And that is sometimes where we find ourselves in the blame, the victim, which in my process, I allow people to blame and be the victim and allow all the negative barrage, criticism, judgment to come out for that pocket of time. But when you are in that mode, day-to-day life, that is where you will tend to shoot out the blame, the excuses, the denial. And a lot of your life situation can feel like because of that person. But when you eventually move through it, and I know that you will move through it, I don't know what the timeline will be, is that you will have a gratitude for that person and the part that they played and how they got you to look deeper into what is going on, where is the root, to really liberate you and be able to create the space to manifest everything that you desire. Okay. So, yeah, being a single mum, if this is a relationship subsequent to being a single mum, this is another area to work on. Is it a death? Is it there was a cheating or an affair on either sides that you've got to process through? Is it just that it felt good and it was very amicable? Because my aim is that no matter what, you look back on this separation of this relationship and any previous relationships and any future relationships, and you're really proud of how you navigated it and not embarrassed or ashamed of how you showed up. And communication is a huge part, and really working on our own emotional cup, emptying out any triggering emotions so that we can come forwards with the best energy possible. So, as a result, or just because you are looking for a new job. Now, I often say that money is the modern day sense of survival because most people, not all, have got their basic needs met. This is the base chakra. The basic needs that enable our survival is a roof over our head, food, water, warmth, clothes on our back. Okay. And yes, we need money to be able to provide that level of sense of safety for ourselves and those basic needs. But a lot of us have gone beyond those basic needs. A lot of us choose to be in situations where it doesn't need to cost as much as it does, but everything on top of your basic needs being met is a desire. Okay, and this is going to play in, I hope I remember to mention it because, well, I'll mention it here now. It's like really to have the gratitude for everything that you've got right now. Okay, and I will hopefully remember to dive into that a little bit later. So, a lot of the time when people are looking for a job, it is to meet their basic needs. And sometimes they don't look beyond their basic needs. And so that is just the paradigm that they live in and all they know how to operate within. So this is sometimes where people will go, right, I need $30,000 to live on in a year. And so all of a sudden, all they make is enough after tax to be able to pay the $30,000 a year. And they create these energetic thresholds and energetic minimums for themselves. So you might be focusing on getting a bill paid, paying your rent, paying a mortgage bill, paying whatever it might be, school fees, etc., and just meeting the bare minimum of what you need. And so money is amazing. Money is energy. I'm going to be running a money masterclass later on in March for people who are on the Moth Portal membership. I've had a really interesting relationship with money and I continue to work on my relationship with money, but I see money as energy and it can provide amazing things. And I feel like this question when I hear it is that there is that, well, you said it, you feel greedy, you feel guilty. And I would have to say that it's probably got to do a little bit with money and maybe some of the beliefs and the conditioning and the environment that you've been brought up around. Because to me and how I see money, which I would love to impart on you, is that money is energy and money allows us to do amazing things. It allows us to go beyond the basic needs and sense of survival. It allows us to step into desire. It allows us that when we've got enough money, plus more, we can give to ourselves and then we can give even more to others from a place of overflow. So this brings me into the analogy, the cliche analogy that we've heard before is that, well, if you want to attract love into your life, is love yourself first, know that you are lovable, and then overflow from that place of love and you will attract that. The same goes for anything. You sort out your emotional cup, you empty out a lot of your emotions that aren't necessary for you to store, then you are going to have more capacity to hold space for people and their emotional woes and whatever is going on for them. That's why when I worked with practitioners in the past, is that I say, you want to do this work with people, you have got to do the work yourself. Otherwise, you've got no hope of holding the space for people, and it's going to trigger you, it's going to exhaust you. Okay, so same with money. Don't go and give money to people. In my belief, don't go and give money away if your basic needs aren't being met and you feel like you don't have enough. I would not want to receive money from someone who feels like they don't have enough of it. I would happily receive money from someone who's got more than enough and it's overflowing. Okay, so otherwise, you're not actually helping that person out who asked for money, because now you're suffering because you feel like you don't have enough money and you've just given more of it away. And that person, money is not always the solution. Now, the thing is that we think we want something and money is going to solve it, but really we're after a feeling. And it's not until you experience getting the money and the amount that you actually desire to receive that you'll probably realize what I'm talking about. Or you get it thinking it was going to provide you with this feeling and the feeling is lost on you. Okay, I hope I'm making sense. So don't give money to people unless you've got enough of your own, and only give from any space if you are overflowing, if you have filled yourself up first and you have got more than enough to give. The energy is completely different. Okay. So I would say that you're wanting this job because you want to cover your basic needs and you want to get yourself out of a situation. And sometimes, just on another note, is that some people don't leave relationships because they are financially dependent on their partner. And it's not until they have the thought of leaving the relationship that they realize that they're in this situation. And so sometimes they will stay in this low level of discomfort that they know they can function and survive in whilst they get everything in order. They get themselves a little bit more financially dependent, but I would say that a lot of the time it feels like a leap to be able to let go of that. So money is a relationship. Money is a friend. Money is energy. Money. And it really responds to us and the work we do. So everything for me comes back to work on yourself, process your emotions. There is a point in time where you will transition from processing your emotions. You know the truth and your purpose that you want to step into. And it's no longer about processing emotions. It is about taking that step, which I will say can involve a lot of resistance for some. It can involve a level of discomfort. But the next step really is speak your truth, step into your truth, express all that you are and all that you desire to be. Okay, so let me speak specifically to this job thing and go back to the first point. Okay, so you try to manifest something and this intense feeling of greed or guilt comes about and you feel like you're taking away from someone. So where I would start with this is, do you remember who might have taught you this belief? Do you remember where you have been exposed to this? Because for some people, this doesn't even come on their radar. So obviously this is something you want to work through. You're very aware of it. It might be a self-sabotaging pattern. How do I break it? What do I do about it? So for anything, I say to people, okay, can you go back to a memory, an event, a person who might have imparted this on you? Because a job is going to give you money. And I'm going to just say, is there anything around your parents and their money, their work ethic? Have you been told, don't be too greedy? Have you been made to feel guilty because of the choices that you have made in the past? Now, I say to a lot of my clients, and especially when I'm working at a business level with people, is that you're going to start to want to step into that 5% or the 1% to 2% way of thinking, which is not the way the majority of people speak. So even your friends and the people you surround yourself with, is be aware, what is their relationship with money? How do they speak about money? What is the narrative and the language that you are exposed to around money? Now, money is an analogy for everything else as well. Everything is connected. This can be, I desire to manifest anything in my life. not just money, not just a job, anything that I desire, but then I get this intense feeling of guilt and greed. Okay. It could be like mine. I want a horse. People go around this narrative that horses are really expensive and you must be really rich if you're going to have a horse. And I've got friends that have got horses and like, I don't know why people think I'm rich. There's many different levels of horses that you can get. There are many different levels of involvement you can have with your horse and different levels of care that you can get involved with your horse. I don't believe it has to be expensive. It's what you get to choose it to be. Okay. With everything. But it could be a car. And it's so interesting. I've had a lot of clients who've gotten their dream car, they've gotten their Tesla, they've gotten the Mercedes or whatever it might be, the Lexus, but then they don't even park it in front of their house, or they don't park it in the work car park because they're worried what people will think. So all of a sudden, they've got something that they desire that I know has a deeper story behind it. And I love to hear that story. And then they feel, well, they go and do the thing, which is great, but then they feel so ashamed. So they're not actually celebrating the milestone that they've achieved and what it means to them. And I think that's something that we could do is before judging people by the car that they drive and how expensive it is or the clothes that they wear is, could we give them a minute and could we give them time to actually understand their story and be curious as to what does this mean to them? Because anything that I spend money on, I like to be intentional about. So I really feel like actually everything else that I've spoken to prior to this and processing your emotions, not just about money, a job, or greed or anything, is just to process your emotions. Just start with that. You don't even need to know really where to start. There's no good place to start, but just keep chipping away at all the events, all the memories that hold charge in your body, that are stored in your body. And more will reveal itself as you keep on processing your emotions. And you will just start to create space to attract more. And that's where you might then be able to transition your mindset into I am worthy, I am deserving of this job or XYZ, whatever it is I desire. Because this is where I really like to work with people, and I work with different people at different stages and phases. But it's always started with I love to help people to process their emotions. They're in a place of pain. They know that there's something more on the cards for them and hold on to that desire. But first, you've got to process your emotions. You have got to empty out your emotional cup and create space for the more. I don't believe in the mindset work on top of a full emotional cup. It lands completely differently and it doesn't necessarily stick if the pan is full, if the cup is full. Okay, you don't have room to squash the mindset stuff in. Create space for it to be able to land. And I talked about this on my Expand Your Capacity Masterclass, which is now on the Moth portal. And there's some other amazing masterclasses on there for you to dive into if you wish. Okay, so you process your emotions, but you did talk about guilt because the ultimate is to be able to desire. So once you create space for more, I believe you can manifest the life that you desire. You can go into dreamland, you can go into the feminine space, you can just go, right, I can dream up and I can manifest what feels like is impossible. Everything that I've manifested to this day once felt impossible, but I've really transitioned into a place of I can manifest from a place of knowing now. I don't have to doubt. I don't have to question the how. I just say it. I believe it. I've done the work. I've emptied out my emotional cup. Now I just got to let go of the timeline and it's going to land when I'm ready, when I'm an energetic match, and when it's time. So when you say, though, guilt, that is, I listen to the words. The guilt for me, I know that there is stuff to process around your relationships in life. So I've already touched on some around intimate relationships, but also look into parental relationships. You look into your fertility journey. You can look into your friendships, your money relationship, your workplace relationships. What have they been for you in the past, and what is it that you can process around this? Now, whatever way you choose to process on it, if it's working for you, then continue with it. And then there are deeper and deeper levels that you can go to. Because we've got to address why is it that I feel guilt? And we can go into our mind and you can have me preach to you and I share with you what guilt might mean, but only you can truly find out where did this guilt stem from. And when you can really acknowledge it, then you can release it, then you can process it, and then you can start to rewire yourself out of feeling of guilt, especially when it's not giving you good feelings. Because at the end of the day, the guilt isn't making anyone feel good. So that's not really a win-win situation. Okay, so guilt, and then greed I talked about is, have there been people that have told you, don't get too greedy? You got what you want. Why do you want more? Because when you get what you desire, you'll realize what you're capable of. And then it is completely normal to desire the next thing. And it's not that the goalpost keeps on moving. Now, for my clients, I say, once you get what you desire, or once you achieve the goal, make sure you anchor it in with a celebration. Because there are the people that you can see where the goalpost might be moving, and it's like they're never satisfied, they're never fulfilled, and they're chasing the next thing, be it a money goal, be it a career goal. And I believe it's because they haven't really anchored in and let their nervous system know, you did it, you got the success, you're capable of this. So I speak a lot about desire and how once you get what you desire, sometimes it's a little bit of a trigger, because either it's like, oh my gosh, I'm capable of this. What's next? And I'm like, I'm all for hearing what's next. I love it. I'm going to get you to celebrate it though. Okay. The other thing is that some people thought that what they desired was going to help them feel a certain way. I need to get the house and then I'll feel secure and then I'll make the moves. I need $100,000 to pay off this debt and then I'll feel this. So they start to externalize their circumstances, that when I have this, then I'll do this and be this way. Okay, and I've been having some interesting conversations with a friend of mine is about feminine and masculine energetics. The doing is masculine, the being is the feminine. And a lot of people have it the wrong way round. They think I have to do, then have the thing, and then I will be a certain way. But actually, it's what can you bring in to be right now of what you desire? You have, you do, and then you have, or even have, and then you do. So it's a funny concept and you might need to rewind and listen to it. But if you are in the mode of, I will, when I have the thing or when I do the thing, then I get it, have it, then I will be a certain way, then that is actually the wrong way around. Okay. It is about how can I be right now and embody as much of what I desire of whatever capacity to whatever capacity I have. And then I will start to have the thing or do the thing and so on. Okay. I've just realized as I've gone into this is a whole different topic for me to speak to. So if you weren't following with me, all good. Let's just get back on track with this question. Okay. So working on the guilt, working on the greed, and then really focus on what it is you desire. Okay, so if it is that you desire to have a job, I want you to get into your five senses. When you have the job, what is it going to look like? What is it going to feel like? What is it going to sound like? What is it going to taste like? What am I going to be tasting? What am I going to be smelling at that time? Maybe you go out to celebrate for a meal. Okay, so what is it that you desire and what does it feel like is really important? Because what I've just touched on before is that sometimes people get the thing and they don't actually, then they keep on chasing, because really what they were chasing was a feeling. Okay, the 100,000 was never going to fix it. The house wasn't going to fix it. So how can you be in the feeling of what it is you desire now to bring it into your life? Okay, so what we're really after is a feeling. So what are you going to feel when you get this job? What are you going to feel, hear, taste, smell? What are the other senses? What am I going to see? Okay, what am I going to feel, see, smell, taste, and hear? And get yourself into that. Now, I talked a little bit about on Expand Your Capacity that it can be very difficult to get into the future visualization of things to help manifestation if you have not been able to feel your past. So that's why I always start people with the past. It can feel uncomfortable because you've already got evidence for having emotions and having feelings, but perhaps you haven't been able to feel them back then. So I give you the experience to feel off the evidence before you tap into what you are yet to have evidence for and what you desire to manifest. Okay, but really, like, feeling is something that I've been talking a lot about, is that actually you're after a feeling, and can you really tap into what the feeling is? And if I am to get the next job, because you're going to keep on getting opportunities like this until you move through it differently, is what is the feeling I am after? Now, what I'm going to say is that I touched on it before, is that it's not really a win-win situation or helpful for anyone for you not to get this job. Okay. So I want you to realize that. And also recognize that every time your mind has gone to this place, you manifest exactly where your thoughts have gone. Okay. So I said earlier, it's hard to switch the mindset stuff on top of an emotional cup. So how can you dig deeper with the work that you're already doing? But how can you also, yes, acknowledge what if it goes wrong, but in the meantime, it's already not working out the way you want it to. Okay. So what is the flip side? How is it that it could be everything that I desire, that it supports me, my family, it meets our basic needs? And I also know what it is I desire beyond the basic needs. I know the number that I would like to be able to make, not just how much do I need to make that's just enough to cover our basic needs and a little bit extra. It's how can we cover our basic needs plus more into all that I desire. So desire is very key. I've run masterclasses on this as well, is that you have got to know what it is that you desire. So your desire can be up here and you're down here, and you've got to be prepared to do the work, which includes the emotional work and the mindset work. Not the mindset work first, in my opinion. Do the emotional work so the mindset work can then land. Know that there is going to be challenges along the way, but they're all going to stretch you. They're all going to help you grow and help you get into that desire space. So if your pattern has been that, okay, this job would be amazing, but what are people going to say about me when I get this job, and that's stopping you, then you've got to release, you've got to process on those people. Okay. Because right now it's not helping anyone, you getting the job. You probably don't even know the person that's getting the job, so you can't even celebrate that. What is it going to mean to me? What is it going to feel like, look like, sound like, taste like, smell like when I get this job? What is it going to feel like is really the focus? What is it that I desire? What are my fears? I acknowledge my fears. I acknowledge what I think that other people are going to think about me. Why don't you actually wait until someone, like, go to the thing and wait for someone to criticize and judge you? Okay. Rarely will that happen, but there is always going to be someone who criticizes or judges you. Most of the time, it's going to be behind your back. I talk a lot about this in my groups. Okay, so navigate your fears and let them go and focus on what it is that you desire. And if every time you've had this thought that someone else could do with it more than me, and you've been able to manifest that, where is it that you can change your thought to what you desire and how good it would be if you were to get this job, if you were to nail this job, that you take it from being good on paper to being good in real life. So your experience of not getting these jobs are also experiences for you to process as well. They might not feel as significant as your past ones, but I promise you that they're going to represent something that is rooted in your past. So I recommend my clients that they do keep on processing on the recent events that are happening so they don't store more. And concurrently, they're working on their past as well. So I feel like I have gone into this. I'm just wondering, I'm just looking at the notes that I took, if there's anything else that I can speak to. I would love to hear back from anyone who does ask a question and I respond in this podcast or wherever it might be. You let me know how it lands. I also know the things that I share, it just depends on where you're at on your journey, is your body will hear it, your mind doesn't always comprehend it. So just give it a minute and hopefully things will land. Keep doing the work, however it is you're doing it. Be really focused on your desire. Okay, something else has come up as I try and wrap this up is that there are always tough things happening in the world. It's what we call duality. There can be the highs, the celebration, and at the same time, there can be deep sadness. There can be really negative space things happening in the world. but we need these polarities. And it's knowing that the duality is that these get to coexist at the same time. You don't need to go into the suffering. Okay, so there are things happening around the world. There are people in your life who are having a harder time than you, but it doesn't help if you get into that situation as well. Okay, working on yourself, you're responsible for yourself. You're responsible for your emotions and you're responsible for your own life. So I know it's a big topic to also talk about. I often bring up other things and like I could record another podcast, but there is always poverty somewhere in the world. There is always someone starving. There is always someone who is on the brink of death. But we don't need to let that hold us back from living the life that we desire. So when you tap into that, when you are able to start to attract what it is you desire, you will realize that there is more, and you will realize how much you can give from a place of overflow. So I hope that answers your question. And in time, I might speak to some of these bigger topics, some of the curlier concepts that I touched on today. But thank you for asking the question. And if anyone else has a question, please feel free to get in touch with me. My personal Facebook messenger, Jin Ong, is actually the best place to get in touch. Or you can do Instagram, but you just need to ask your question in 1-minute messages. Have it in flow. Whatever you ask goes on the podcast. If you ask me to edit it, I am not going to answer your question because I don't edit these podcasts. Okay, so thank you for listening. Thank you for this question, Melanie, and I hope it supports you on your journey, and I would love to hear how this lands for you. Thanks for learning with me on the Art of Listening to Your Body podcast. If you like what you've heard, I would love if you could rate, review, and share with your friends. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. My handle is The Art of Listening to Your Body. If you're interested in working with me, I offer online courses for the general public and trainings for practitioners, therapists, and coaches. I also open limited one-to-one coaching spaces throughout the year. If you would like to find out more, head to my website, drjinong.com.